Welcome to Algebra 1. The learning goal for this episode is to learn how to find the number of permutations for a given situation. First, some necessary vocabulary. A permutation is an arrangement of objects in which order is important. For example, if you have a red object, a blue object, and a green object, you have 6 possible permutations of how you can arrange them. We're now going to define factorial, as it's going to come in handy in a formula in a minute. For any positive integer n, the product of the integers from 1 to n is called n factorial and written as n with an exclamation point. The value of 0 factorial is defined to be 1. So, for example, 5 factorial is 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1, which equals 120. The number of permutations of n objects is given by this formula. You read this as the number of permutations of n objects taken n at a time is n factorial. For the example of the red, green, and blue objects, we have 3 objects, so the number of permutations of 3 objects taken 3 at a time is 3 factorial, or 3 times 2 times 1, which equals 6. Sometimes we only want to arrange some of the objects. Say you've added 10 songs to a playlist, but only have room for 6 of them on your iPod. How many different ways can you arrange those songs? We could make a tree diagram for this, but it would be lengthy. Instead, we have a formula for the number of permutations of n objects taken r at a time. The way you read this formula is the number of permutations of n objects taken r at a time is n factorial divided by the quantity n minus r, the whole quantity factorial. So for our song example, we have 10 objects taken 6 at a time. So our formula looks like this: 10 factorial over the quantity 10 minus 6 factorial, which ends up being 10 factorial over 4 factorial, which when you work that out is 151,200 different permutations. Let's look at an example. How many ways can you arrange the letters in the word fish? Then, how many ways can you arrange 3 of the letters in the word fish? Well, fish has 5 letters, so the number of permutations of 5 things taken 5 at a time will be 5 factorial, or 120. If we want to take them just 3 at a time, we have 5 factorial over 5 minus 3 factorial, or 2 factorial. That works out to be 60. Let's look at another example. Let's say you have 20 songs in a playlist but can only fit 12 of them on your iPod. How many different ways can you make that playlist on your iPod? Well, that would be 20 choose 12, which is 20 factorial over 20 minus 12, or 8 factorial. When you work that out, that works out to be over 6 times 10 to the 13 different ways. Now for our guided practice section. We're going to work through some problems together. You do not need to write down these problems, just step through them with me. At each step, I'm going to prompt you with the question you should be asking yourself, then I'll pause for about 5 seconds for you to think about it and answer it for yourself, then I'll show you. So, for this problem, what are we trying to do here? What we're trying to do is calculate all the permutations of the letters in the word family, and then all the permutations of any 3 of those letters. How do we do that? First, we use our formula for 6 objects taken 6 at a time, which will be 6 factorial, which is 720. Then what? Then we use our formula for 6 objects taken just 3 at a time, which is 6 factorial over 6 minus 3, or 3 factorial. Works out to 120. Let's try another one. If 7 marching bands are performing at a competition and the order is determined at random, what is the total possible number of orders? And then what is the probability that your band will perform first? How do we do this? First, we calculate 7 objects taken 7 at a time, which gives us 5,040 possible orders. Now what? Well, the probability of performing first is simply 1/7, as your band will be in the first position 1/7 of those 5,040 times. Now for the self-check section. In this section, you're going to physically pause the video as you work out the problems on paper in your notebook. Then, you'll press play to check to see how you did. You'll have 5 seconds to pause the video after I stop speaking before I show you the solution. Please pause the video and work out the problem, then press play to check. Here is the solution. Please compare this to your work. Pause the video here if you need more time to compare, then press play again to move to the next problem. Same thing on this problem. Pause the video, write down this problem and work it out in your notebook, then press play to check. Please pause the video now. Here's the solution. Again, pause the video if you need more time to compare this to your work. In closing, let's review our learning goal. We wanted to learn how to find the number of permutations for a given situation. We did that by learning 2 formulas for permutations and how to apply them. The formula for n objects n at a time is n factorial. And the formula for the number of permutations of n objects taken r at a time is n factorial over n minus r, the entire quantity, factorial.